Hey, everybody. Welcome to the OMG Tarot podcast. I hope you're all doing well today. This episode is part one of a two-part series that's a conversation I recently had with Scarlett Seebach. Scarlett Seebach is a human design specialist and the creator of Astral Reiki. So we get into what Astral Reiki is, what human design is, how they intersect with tarot and astrology, and just overall walking this path. So in this first episode, we primarily talk about Astral Reiki and a bit about human design. And then episode two, we do readings for each other. I interpret her natal chart, she interprets my human design. So it's very enlightening and it's kind of cool to see how these different modalities kind of compare against each other and stack up on each other. So I hope you enjoy it. Also, I think I've finally figured out what made the audio sound a little crappy when I have guests on here. So, ideally, the audio engineering is a lot better this time around. And if you are experiencing any issues with it, please let me know because I'm learning how to use Audacity and various tools and plugins as I go along. So, thanks for bearing with me on my audio engineering journey. And I hope you enjoy this conversation with Scarlett. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the OMG Tarot podcast. I'm sitting down today with Scarlett Seebach and talking a bit about astral Reiki, human design, crystals, and every awesome, wonderful thing that she does.
Hi, Lindsay. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for coming. How's it going?
Pretty good. Life is good. It is a beautiful day today, so can't ask for better than that, I suppose.
Yeah, tell us a bit about. I'm mostly interested in tell us about astral Reiki because I see you created it and I see there's quite a bit that you do in that realm. So yeah, I don't know much about Reiki. I know I've received it a few times, but really couldn't
Mhm.
tell you much more than that.
Sure. So I like to talk about astral Reiki in the context of traditional Usui Reiki, since I am an Usui Reiki master and I got my start in Usui Reiki. I feel like that's a great little jumping off point. So, in traditional Reiki, the way that it works is basically your practitioner is channeling life force or light energy, however you want to think about that, from a light source of some kind, whether that's the sun, the center of the galaxy, or creation energy itself. It varies via the practitioner. And they channel that through their crown chakra and then all the way down through their body to the tips of their toes, then back up to the heart chakra and out the hands and into the client, of course. And that is basically the mechanism by which that whole process works. Now, as you might notice, there's a little bit of a pitfall to that. And that is the energy is passing through the practitioner's entire body before it reaches the client. So that's always going to kind of dilute the energy a little bit because none of us is a pure vessel. If we were, we would not have bodies. So we all have stuff going on, and every practitioner does their dead level best to make sure that there's as little stuff going on as possible so they don't dilute the energy as much as possible. But with astral Reiki, what I'm actually doing is removing my soul, my consciousness, my light body, my astral body. It's all basically the same thing. So I'm just going to call it my light body. I am taking my light body and I am removing it from my physical body and I am moving that light body over to where my client is. And then I am conducting that life force or light energy through my light body instead of my physical body. So that takes care of most of the dilution issue. It really gives you a purer, more undiluted energy than you would get via a more traditional Reiki session.
And then what do clients come to you for? Like, is it for physical ailments or emotional or spiritual or
So I tend to attract two different kinds of clients. And I kind of dub them my fun ones and my interesting ones. The interesting ones tend to come with me with more physical ailments. They may have stomach pain or inflammation or knee pain. I had one person who came in with a shoulder injury. And I had one person who came to me after getting a double mastectomy. So those are the more interesting cases. And, it varies what we do to help mitigate whatever's going on there depending on the situation. But as an example, my client with the shoulder issue, I'm totally grabbing the wrong shoulder. It was this one. Um, but my client with the shoulder issue, she had had shoulder pain for several years, ended up having surgery on her shoulder to try to fix that pain, which then, of course, the surgery just made everything worse because, allopathic medicine. But when she came to see me, I picked up on some ancestral things going on there. And one of her ancestors had gotten a spear to that shoulder. And the person who threw it was still like in her field and still like really mad about something. Um, so I severed that connection and removed the spear and did a lot of, light energy to help repair her auric body. And she is now pain free in her shoulder. So very cool.
Oh, that's amazing.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
I thought it was a pretty cool day. But then I have my more fun clients. And my fun clients tend to come to me for more spiritual reasons. They are actively on an upgrading spirituality journey and they're looking for more like etheric things. So, very, very recently, I had one client who, when she was in school, they were like part of a little government experiment kind of thing where they had all of the kids drinking this pink fluid that looked like Pepto-Bismol. Not super clear on what the point of that was, but it had the essence of it basically had gathered in the back of her mind and was blocking full access to her third eye. So I went through and removed that and like cleaned up that area, regrew that part of her mind. You shoot a lot of light at anything and it'll grow back. Um, and, basically got it to where her third eye was working correctly again and could connect fully with her mind, and, the downloads that she gets now, they are far and away just, like, miles better than they were before I did that, and they were pretty incredible before. She has just entered to this whole new level of clairvoyance and clairaudience and clairsentience, and it's a beautiful thing to see.
I wonder if that liquid that she was drinking, was it fluoride maybe? Because isn't that kind of a thing, like fluoride treatment in schools that tends to calcify the pineal gland, or am I going down a silly rabbit hole right now?
I think it was something different, uh, because of the placement of the thing, the pink thing, because and wow, now we're gonna have to get into biology, and I'm not like 100% sure where the pineal gland is, but I think it's there-ish? Is it in the front of the head?
I think. I also don't know exactly where it is, but I feel that
Like,
sounds
thing
right.
needs to be Googled.
Yeah, I'm gonna do that right now.
Okay, let's find out where the pineal gland is before we answer this question.
So it is a tiny pinecone-shaped endocrine gland located deep in the center of the human brain, tucked between the two cerebral hemispheres. Let me pull up an image.
Sorry to the audience who actually knows where the pineal gland is.
We are all learning something new today. Yeah, so all right, it looks like it's just about dead center.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Ooh, dude, this is towards the back, isn't it?
I guess yeah, this image shows
You know
yeah, it's
what? Maybe you're right. I think it was a little off to the side, but I bet there was some pineal gland stuff going on here. That would make sense. I totally thought it was towards the front. I'm clearly wrong. Um,
well, I thought the same, so yeah.
Okay. Oh, learning all kinds of new and interesting things today. Okay. So if that's where it is, then maybe fluoride did play a part in this. That is entirely possible. I suppose it could be an A plus B kind of thing. Like it could have been, fluoride and something. I do think the little ball of pink, it was more to one side than the other. Like I think it was on the left. Um, and the pineal gland appears to be in the center, but that could just be the pictures that we were looking at. Um, but it would make sense that the pineal gland was playing a part in it. But yeah, like I could definitely see fluoride playing a part, but I don't think that's the whole picture here. So, yes and no. I think the answer is yes and no. Because who needs binaries?
Do you maintain contact with a lot of your people you work with?
Yeah, most people do see me on, not a frequent, but a regular basis
Okay.
for what, like yeah, I have very few one-time clients. Most of my clients, like, the one with the pink thing, she only sees me, like, 2 or 3 times a year, because she's pretty spiritually self-sufficient, so she doesn't need a lot of help. But my more interesting clients, they tend to see me on a more, like, monthly or twice monthly basis, just because they need a little bit more help.
What got you into Astral Reiki? And I guess just Reiki more broadly, because I guess you have to get into traditional Reiki to invent a new kind.
That is true, that is true. So the thing that brought me to traditional Reiki was actually pain. I spent most of my 20s in a pretty extraordinary amount of pain. I now kind of understand it a lot better. It's like an inflammatory issue that's stemmed from anger because I'm a manifester. Anger lives in the liver and blah, blah, blah. But at the time, I didn't know any of that. And I was trusting in allopathic medicine to try to tell me what was wrong. And they very much could not. Um, I got the standard American woman treatment. So, one of them told me to lose weight. One of them told me I was crazy. The other one was like, you need to see a therapist, blah, blah, blah. And, the one who told me I needed to see a therapist actually wasn't too far off. But I did finally find one doctor who actually took me seriously. And she sent me to, I think, 5 different specialists, give or take. And when I was on the last one, they just looked at me, blood work in hand, her results anyway, in hand, and said, "There's nothing we can do for you." Very much in that tone. And, I had been on this very long journey trying to figure out how to deal with my issues and how to cope with this level of pain. And when they looked at me, or when they told me that, I know what I was supposed to feel. I know I was supposed to feel like absolutely devastated, like I've lost all will to live kind of vibes. But actually, what I really felt was this truly tremendous sense of relief. I really just felt like, "Oh, thank God. I don't have to do this anymore. I can go and figure this out myself and find someone who will actually help me." And so I started reading just any health book I could get my hands on. I had been listening to Coast, so I started listening to that a little bit more religiously. And it's like anything alternative medicine, I am here, I am listening. What have you got to say? And I just read so many books. I couldn't even name them anymore. There were so many. And eventually I was like, okay, let's try massage therapy. That should help, right? And it did. Like, I
Nice.
still get a massage every week. It's amazing. Love it. Um, but it wasn't doing the trick. And so I started acupuncture, which I do not do anymore. That is miserable. To me, I know some people swear by it, but I find it extraordinarily painful.
I never tried it. I've seen it. Like, I know what it is, but I've never tried it myself.
And so for anyone who doesn't know, acupuncture is basically where they stick these teeny tiny little needles that they tell you you won't feel into your skin. Like I think is just subdermally, so that it's supposed to affect the meridians in your body to get them to work right, basically. And they say you don't feel it, but I have definitely met others who do. And if you are an energy sensitive individual, you're more likely to feel it. And I learned later that I am an energy sensitive individual and it's actually really painful. And so I was reading some more and stumbled upon the word Reiki, and they were like, "Yeah, Reiki is this excellent complement to acupuncture." And I was still in the mode of, well, pain will make it better somehow. So I started going to Reiki, and that was absolutely life changing. I think I only went to like 3 or 4 more acupuncture sessions after I found Reiki because it also sometimes hurt, but in a very, very different way, and it was so much more easeful. It wasn't easier, but it was more easeful to, do Reiki instead, and it absolutely changed my life. I credit Reiki to the development of my psychic abilities in a way that I can actually control. I credit Reiki to me not being in pain as I sit here and talk right now. Um, it's it's the best thing that ever happened to me, and I would never for a single solitary second knock Reiki because it changed my life. Um, so that is how I came to Reiki, and, as far as astral Reiki goes, that I actually came up with when I was in my Reiki 2 class, as I was literally just sitting there learning distance Reiki. I had been a fairly seasoned astral projector for quite some time by then, and as I was, doing the thing that you do for distance Reiki and it's coming out your hands and you're supposed to direct the energy, it's like, this would be so much easier if I could just pop out of my body and direct it that way. Like then I'd just be there. And so I did. And I scared my energy partner like about half to death, but she forgives me.
That's good.
And it was so much more effective. And, then I came back and told everybody what I did. And as is fairly usual for a manifester, everybody looked at me like I had two heads.
What did your teacher think? Like, I'm sure your teacher probably was like, "That's amazing. That's groundbreaking." Well, you tell me.
I will never know because she did not say anything.
That's you'd think if your student does something like amazing and groundbreaking, you'd be interested because I don't know. I teach a tarot class, and I love when my students like come up with something new or exciting, or like they have like fresh insight. It's
In human design, I am a manifester, a 5-1 emotional manifester. And actually, you're a 5-1 as well. But you're a projector, so it's a little different. Um,
interesting.
but one of the things that tends to happen with someone like me who is a manifester is I initiate people. And I tend to think a little outside the box, and crazy stuff very typically falls out of my mouth. And a lot of people don't really know how to react to that. So she is not the first person to look at me in stunned silence. Um, for me, that's a fairly common reaction.
That's fair. It's just yeah.
But yeah, it would have, I as much as I accept that is the way that is, sometimes it is nice to know what people are thinking when you do something new, but that's okay. I don't need external validation, right?
Yeah. So tell us a bit more about human design.
Human design tends to interweave into my entire language these days. So human design is a little bit like astrology, and I think you're an astrology girly, right? You know quite a bit. I thought so. And astrology is like this amazing tool for self-awareness. Like one of the best there ever was, you know? You know.
Yes, I look at charts all day.
Yes. And it's incredibly powerful for that. And human design has a similar bent to it, but it's kind of like a yes and kind of thing because it combines a lot of different modalities, and astrology is one of them. It also integrates or incorporates, yeah, I bet incorporates is a better word there. It also incorporates the Hindu chakra system, the I Ching. I'm missing one because there's like five of them. Shoot. Oh, the Kabbalah. So, yeah, it incorporates astrology, the I Ching, the Hindu chakra system, the Kabbalah, genetics, and just a little bit of quantum physics just to be fun. Um, and
Sounds like a lot.
it is. It's a lot. It's a really big system. It does a lot of different things. But my favorite thing about human design is while it is absolutely a tool for self awareness, and you can spend your entire life studying your human design chart and still not be done. It's also got this built-in system for making aligned decisions for yourself and, like, figuring out how your own internal authority works for you. And that's like a really beautiful thing that I think is somewhat unique to human design because most other systems they need like an outside authority. You know, like you're gonna tell me that I am a Leo and that there are things that go along with being a Leo. And I don't know, I've never gotten an astrology reading before, but, like, the things that go along with that, and, that's an amazing thing, but, you're still the outside authority where that's concerned. There's some internal work that I can do, but I'm still not gonna really be able to make decisions off. But this gives you, like, this internal mechanism. Human design gives you, like, this internal mechanism for making a decision for yourself that you can trust is aligned with your purpose and the collective purpose. So it's not just about you. You can actually, when you experiment with it, you'll realize over time how much it actually serves the collective for you to follow your strategy and authority as well, not just you. And I think that's really the power center for human design is that strategy and authority.
So is there any sort of predictive or a timing element, or is it purely just understanding yourself and your relationship to the collective?
Some people do use human design to make predictions. I'm not one of them. And that is not like my favorite thing to do. As a non-sacral being, which I can definitely get into later, but basically, you're actually one too. So we will definitely talk about it. But as a non-sacral being, I tend to run a little low on energy because I don't have like this engine running inside me all the time that just sleeps when I'm asleep and then wakes up fresh and ready to go again. That's not how I work. But when I look at the transits, I can actually see in the transits when I'm going to be making that connection, and that energy is gonna be available to me. Um, and that's one of the main that's one of the main ways that I use human design transits, is to kind of assess what my energy levels are gonna be for the day. And if I know that I'm supposed to be feeling a certain way, that, I'm supposed to have the sacral energy or I'm supposed to have some other kind of energy and I'm not feeling it, then that's actually kind of a nice little red flag for me, or at least an orange one, to check into my health and see, do I maybe need some vitamin C or something like that?
And is it just kind of based on how it pulls in more modern stuff like genetics and quantum physics? Do you know when about human design was created? Is it kind of a more modern system?
It's a very modern system. It was I always get it confused because it's either the year before or the year after I was born, and so it has not been around very long.
So
But
it's a millennial.
yes, it's a millennial.
Oh, okay. I
Well,
love it
this is a
already.
millennial. Yes, it is very new, especially, compared to astrology, which has been around for thousands of years. I think it was 1987. I wanna say it was 1987, but I might be wrong, um, because it could have been 1989, and now I was born in 1988. You're the dragon. Yes.
I'm married to a dragon.
Oh, really?
So,
That is very cool. We are very fiery.
yeah. And I was looking at your chart. It is fiery.
It is indeed. It's very fiery. Um, and so, yeah, no, it has not been around very long. But the cool thing that you can say about human design and quantum physics is that Ra, who is the guy who came up with the system, that is definitely not the name he was born with. He decided that was his name later. He predicted actually that the neutrinos in the neutrino stream had mass before the scientific community discovered that neutrinos have mass.
That's fascinating.
Isn't it?
Does he have, do you know, like a science background or genetics background?
Not as far as I know. Um, Shoot, I think he was in sales actually. But don't quote me on that. I could be wrong. I know he was Canadian, and I know that he came up with this whole system while he was in Ibiza, but I don't know what he did for a living before he did that.
Yeah, no worries. Something else to look up.
Yeah, true. What did he do? Um, in any case, his name is Ra Aruhu, or was, because he did pass on a few years ago.
Oh, that was gonna be my next question is he still alive and still kind of the authority of human design?
No, his family's in charge of it now. They have, a human design university thing going on with that people had varying opinions about, but no, he has passed on.
So for an absolute total noob,
Yes.
can you, I guess, kind of give us like the basic breakdown of what human design is, what you might use it for, and I guess kind of high level insights before you're ready to start digging deeper and getting the more nuanced stuff?
Sure. So, if you want to learn like how human design is put together, that's probably too big of a topic to go into on this podcast. However, I do have a booklet that you can get on my website, yourabundantdesign.com, that will show you pretty visually how the whole thing is put together so that you can understand mechanically how it works. But again, it's a little too big for this particular topic of conversation. That thing's like 50 pages long.
Mhm.
So, yeah, it's a lot. So we're gonna keep it real high level and talk about types because there's a lot of juice to squeeze out of types. So there in human design are 5 different types, and they're a little bit definitely not a one-to-one kind of thing, but they're a little bit like our zodiac signs. Um, there's fewer of them naturally because there are 12 zodiac signs and there's only 5 types. Um, so in these 5 types, there are the manifester, which is me, the projector, which is you, the generator, the manifesting generator, and the reflector. If we want to talk about percentage of population, manifestors make up about 9-ish% of the population. Projectors make up about 20. Generators are about 37, give or take. Manifesting generators are about 32, give or take. And reflectors are about 1%. Those numbers fluctuate just a little bit because, birth and death rates and all that. So, you can't get an exact number at any given time. So these are very rounded numbers, um, give or take. So if we go in order, then let's talk about the strategy of each of these guys. So manifestors have something that's called like a closed and repelling aura, or a dense and selective aura, or a magnetic aura. We're all very confused about the manifestor aura. Nobody can figure out what's going on in here. And so we call it a lot of different things because manifestors' experience of their own aura is very different from everybody else's experience of their aura. So it all just gets a little confusing. And because of that, our strategy is actually to inform
Okay.
because nobody ever knows what's going on with us. We move fast and then we suddenly drop and need a copious amounts of rest to go do another sprint. That's like how our energy tends to operate. And since nobody ever knows when we're going to start moving and nobody ever knows when we're going to stop moving, it's so important for us to keep people, at least the people we care about, informed about what's going on with us because they do not know and they get a little freaked out about it. And so if we just let them know, then we will find that our lives tend to run so much smoother because people are so much less freaked out by us. So that's kind of manifestors in a very small nutshell. If we want to talk about projectors, that is your type. And your type is a little bit different from manifestors. We're both non sacrals. So neither one of us has that like engine in our sacral chakra that's like going all the time. It's a little bit more cyclical and a little bit slower for us. But for projectors, your all's aura is what we call penetrating.
Okay.
And it's when a projector turns their attention onto another person, it's a little bit like being shot with an arrow. It can be like really penetrating in like a very literal kind of way. You know, you're kind of doing it to me right now. You were
I'm
there.
sorry. Oh.
Oh no, no, no. I all of my friends are projectors and I'm so very used to getting shot I don't even feel it anymore.
Oh,
Um,
okay. Well then, so
so I promise, no problems.
okay, good.
Yeah. Yeah, not an issue. But when you get focused in on someone, then you're penetrating into that person. And this is a very beautiful thing because you're literally like getting to know me on such a deep level and like leaning in and just so fascinated. And that is a very cool thing. And you do this with anyone that you're interested in. For the person on the receiving end, if they're not used to it like me, it can feel really invasive.
Okay.
And so that is why the projector strategy is actually to wait for the invitation.
So like a vampire.
Hmm.
Oh, because in vampire lore, they don't come into your house unless you invite them.
Oh, that's fair. But it's not really about your house. It's actually more about biting your neck, if we wanna
See.
stick with the vampire metaphor, which could totally work. Um, it is. It's more about, like, really getting into your energy, really getting to know you. It's not necessarily about siphoning off energy from you, though if people are not, like, super aware of what's going on, they can sometimes feel like it is, even though that's not what's happening. It's just that they don't like getting shocked. And
Fair.
and personally, I kind of enjoy it. You know, my Leo self is like, "Yes, totally. You're very interested in me, and I love it. Let me perform some more." Um, but with that penetrating energy, the reason you're waiting for that invitation is because you see so much, you know? You have already deduced 30 different things about me that I don't even know about, haven't you?
I think I've put a couple of things together.
Uh-huh. Sure, just a couple.
Yeah, just to
Uh,
well, it's not trying to be too creepy here. It's
It's okay. Like I said, all my friends are projectors. I know what you guys are like. And if I had a problem with it, I wouldn't be here. So, but that is the thing. When you deduce so much about someone so quickly and so easily, then you can see what they need to do to change and you can have all of these really deep insights. So you have absolutely amazing advice. Just like top notch, could not be better. You guys are literally here to guide us into the new paradigm and then be the leaders of the new paradigm. Um and so it's an amazing skill, it's an amazing talent, but again, to the person on the other end of it, feels a little bit like being shot. And That is where the invitation really comes in, is when you're offering that advice, when you're letting someone know that you saw just like a lot. When you are, I don't want to say asserting control, but a lot of times it feels like asserting control to the person on the other end. It's not what you're doing. You're literally just trying to redirect. You're just trying to guide a person in a slightly different direction. Um, most of the time. But if you're doing that without an invitation, then it feels to the other person like you just shot them with an arrow and you're like moving them around with it. A very figurative sense, obviously. Mm, but that is why projectors wait for the invitation. A, because nobody likes getting shot without permission, and B, because that is like a big piece of energy for you, you know? You are expending so much energy by doing that for another person. It is a big deal to dive into another person, to really assess that person, to be able to give that person advice. It's a lot of energy, you know? And you don't have it to spare. You may as well not give it away to someone who won't appreciate it. And that's the crux of the whole thing. It's like, let's not give our energy away to people who don't want it in the first place. So that's projectors. Okay, moving on to generators.
Okay.
Yes, which if we're talking plurality, then I suppose that's most people.
Yeah, that was the word I was searching for. Yeah. So
Okay. So generators make up about 37% of the population. There's a lot of misinformation around generators. So you will look on the internet and find people talking about how generators are the worker bees. And there are fewer things that make me angrier, because that is not the deal with generators. When I think about generators, I think about Elle Woods in Legally Blonde. So, which I know sounds really strange, but if you watch that movie and if you were a generator, watch that movie. It will be an excellent reminder. But Elle Woods is on a trajectory. You know, if I remember correctly, she's getting her degree in like fashion or something. And she's looking forward to getting engaged, and then that falls apart. But she's on a trajectory, you know? And then her boyfriend throws her off of that trajectory. And she spends a solid half of the movie trying to figure out how to get back on it. And this is a sacral response. And I kind of love that Reese Witherspoon is also a sacral generator. Like, I think she's just played this part perfectly. Um, Whatever your feelings about Reese Witherspoon are, and she is a sacral generator and she did a great job in that movie. But she does her dead level best to get back on that path, and there's this scene in, I think it's a nail salon where she's reading a magazine and she sees, like, this, other woman who's, I don't know, marrying the boyfriend's brother? But in any case, that woman went to law school, and that's the thing that her sacral latches onto, and she goes, like, 100% into law school. It's like, "Okay, if I wanna get my life back on track, my sacral says law school is the thing. Let's go to law school." So she is on a trajectory, and she goes to law school. Then she finally figures out that her boyfriend is a tool, and she's like, "Okay, no to him. We're gonna go on a different trajectory and dive all the way into law school and be a lawyer." And then Elle Woods is a lawyer for the rest of her life. And she, I assume, will go on to perfect being a lawyer. She is like one of the best lawyers on the planet. She will write new laws. She is such a good lawyer. And that's generator energy.
see. So they lock in and just kind of get pulled in the direction that really is shining brightest for them.
Right. Their sacral literally pulls them into a direction based on their response to their external environment. And so, a generator's strategy is to wait to respond. And if you look at Elle Woods, that's what she's doing in the entire movie. She is literally responding in the entire movie. It's a beautiful thing to see. And that is what they do. And the sacral's a little bit special because it's very, I want to say guttural, and it kind of is. Like, I feel like that's probably the right word. I've never used that word for it before, but like I feel like it's accurate. Um, because it actually makes a noise. So when the sacral gives you a yes or a no or a maybe, like we already know what these noises are. They are uh-huh, uh-uh, or you know? We've all heard these noises our entire lives, and it is universal.
Been doing it this
And
whole time.
yes, exactly.
There we
Very
go
much
again.
tapped into that sacral, which makes sense. You've been gardening today. Um, and so that and see, I just did it there. So that is very much the energy that you're looking for. And that is your guiding lighthouse or your light post or whatever. It's your guiding light. You listen to those sacral uh-huh, or uhs, which is basically just in disguise overall.
Interesting. Makes sense.
And that is what guides you. So that is generators. Manifesting generators are very, very similar to generators. They're also somewhat similar to manifestors. And that's why they get the name manifesting generators. They're kind of a hybrid of the two. So they've still got that sacral response. They are ultimately still generators. But the main difference between a manifesting generator and a generator is generally on one path. And they don't really deviate from that path all that much. They stay on one path. A manifesting generator usually has about 12,
Okay. Oh, wow.
give or take.
Okay.
They has many different interests, and they usually have, like, a lot of projects going at the same time. The main difference between a manifesting generator and a manifester is that eventually that manifesting generator is probably gonna finish those projects, and the manifestor never really does.
So they just collect so basically a manifester would kinda be the archetype of someone who's got like, you can walk through their basement and see every single one of their eras as, like, the unfinished project. "Oh, that was my woodworking era. That was
Yeah,
my."
yeah, yeah. Like, I still have a half-knitted scarf that I started 8 years ago? That I have not finished. That is just one of many examples, but that's kind of the vibe of the manifester is like we get this creative urge to go do something, and then it usually peters out before we're actually done. The manifesting generator eventually, and it does not always happen. That's why we end up with like 12 different projects, but will eventually finish a solid half of them.
That's good.
Yeah. Lucky them. They have the
Yeah,
sacral energy to actually follow something through. So that is the main difference there. Does all that make sense?
it does, and so it kinda sounds like sacral energy is closely tied to completion. Am I right on that? That it seems like or no?
It's not exactly completion, it's more like consistency.
That makes sense.
It's like, yeah, they can kind of, it's a little harder for manifesting generators, but, and from now on, I'm calling them man gens because that is a mouthful. But it's more like, especially with generators, there's, like, this ability to do the same thing every single day, as long as it feels right. And mangens can do something similar. It's not necessarily that they do the same thing every day, but they do have their routines.
I see.
It is more difficult for non-sacrals like you and me to keep a routine.
Society needs all types. I could see where sacrals
Yeah.
probably make really excellent teachers. You gotta be there regardless of what's going on. You still have to come in, teach the class, manage the kids, do what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, it's one of those and there's never been anything more freeing in my life, than the days where I wake up and I just, like, get to figure out what I'm gonna do as I'm doing it.
Yeah, fair, and that's a very important distinction.
Yeah, and, like, the only thing that I'm really focused on is staying hydrated. And that's, like, my only routine part of the day is I stay hydrated. Um, but a generator would be driven insane by something like that because they need that routine. They need the consistency. Non-sacrals don't really need that. In fact, it kind of the more that you fall into your alignment, the more you get into alignment, the less consistency feels important for a non-sacral, to be clear. Yeah, sacrals function very, very well in a well-functioning capitalistic society because it is consistency is required. Non-sacrals struggle a little bit more.
I see.
And I'd like to reiterate a well-functioning capitalistic society. So if you're feeling the squeeze right now, I'd just like to share we're not in one of those. But then the last one is reflectors. Reflectors are very unique in that A, they only make up 1% of the population, but they also have no defined centers, which we didn't really talk about what defined centers are. But like the sacral is a center. The centers are based off of the Hindu chakra system. So there's going to be like a lot of crossover there. But none of theirs are defined. None of theirs are consistent. They do not have what we would think of as a consistent nature, which is really interesting. So they tend to reflect like the collective energy of who they are around most. Which is a really fascinating way to really think about going through life. I think it takes a very specific kind of person to pull that off. So for reflectors, more than any other type, environment and the people that you are around is of paramount importance. There's literally nothing more important to a reflector than who and what they are around. And for a reflector, since they experience so much energy and so much energy is running through their body at any given time, their strategy is actually to wait an entire lunar cycle before making any major decisions.
Interesting. So, I guess what kind of settings would you find a reflector in? Or I guess what kind of life paths or things really tend to make sense for them? Because I'm trying to, now that you've got me thinking, like, all right, who is likely each of these categories?
So, a reflector is one of those types that can really fit in doing anything because they largely take on the personalities and the not necessarily the life path, but definitely like the what do I want to say? It's like the almost essence of other people, and it's like this essence of the collective and the mannerisms of the collective and the wisdom of the collective. So, reflectors are really unique in that they can fit in literally anywhere. They can do anything. Um, it almost doesn't even matter. I mean, like, it does. They still need to be in a place that feels good to them, but it's really all about for them what the collective energy does for them, and if that's a good fit for them.
Would you say a lot of celebrities are reflectors?
No, I don't think so. Just because I guess I don't know a lot about celebrities overall. This is not pop culture is not my area of expertise. You do see a lot of people with open throats and open chi centers that absolutely are actors, and that like gives them this greater propensity for expression. Like, I think Jim Carrey is probably an excellent example of someone with a very likely an open throat center because of all the very interesting and unique things that he can do with his voice. But when you talk about reflectors, since they're kind of reflecting the collective, I would think it would probably be rather difficult to act, at least. Maybe not to sing, I don't know for sure, but at least to act because you have to draw on a certain amount of consistency to perform. That's probably not in the room that you're in.
That makes sense. Yeah, I guess my mind was kind of going that way when I was thinking just about like how in a lot of ways celebrities kind of reflect culture back onto the people, or they kind of, people project what they want and kind of have these parasocial relationships with celebrities, which is that kind of a thing that reflectors kind of might find themselves in scenarios where other people kind of project a lot onto them and have kind of parasocial relationships with them, or not really?
That is actually, you're getting into more profile lines,
Oh, okay.
and, that's actually super fascinating, and we can absolutely talk about that if you want to,
Sure.
because okay, so profile lines are a little bit different. They're another part of your human design chart, but they're like a very specific thing. If you download that booklet, it has a whole section on profile lines, so I'm not gonna explain it here. But, for example, you and I both actually are 5 1s, and those are our profile lines. And there's the 5 on the personality side and the 1 on the more body unconscious side, design side. So the 5 is actually all about projection. And so is the 2, though we don't have the 2. And the 2 is also a projected profile line. So you see a ton of projection with these 2 profile lines. People are constantly projecting something onto both of those lines. They're different projections. Like the 2 line tends to be a bit more accurate than the 5 line because you have a better line of sight. So it's a little bit easier to see the person, but you're still going to be projecting a lot of stuff onto a 2 line. A 5 line is actually a little bit more interesting, in my opinion, though it might just be because I have a 5 line. Um, because it is always a distorted projection. No matter what, nobody's ever going to see you 100% clearly with a 5 line because basically, whenever someone sees a 5 line, they're basically looking in a funhouse mirror. And when you first meet a 5 line, you look at this funhouse mirror, and that thing makes you look amazing. Like, you are wearing exactly the right booty jeans, and everything is popping in exactly the right places, and the person with the 5 line, because you're projecting this image onto them that's fabulous, you think that the person with the 5 line is fabulous. There's almost like this sense of awe that comes along with it. Like, "Oh my gosh, you could save me if you wanted to from whatever this problem is that I'm having," because 5 lines are all about solving problems. But eventually, a person with a 5 line, we are still human beings, and even though we learn by solving problems, we will eventually fail to solve a problem. Like, it's just going to happen because we are human beings, and no one's perfect. So when we fail to solve that problem, the funhouse mirror changes. And suddenly you're looking at this person and seeing yourself fat or ugly or wow, that's a really big zit on my face. The image gets distorted into the worst aspects of you, and then you project those worst aspects onto you or of you onto the person with the 5 line. And suddenly that's the worst person that ever existed. They totally failed me. They are a terrible person, and I never want to see them again.
We go around getting loved and hated and not having much say in it.
Overall, yes. But that is actually why it is so important for people with 5 lines especially, 3 lines as well, though for different reasons, to find people in their lives that understand projection, understand that this is all just a projection, and love themselves. Because, like, when you're projecting onto another person, if you see the zit in your face or you see that maybe you look a little heavier today than you did yesterday, like to love yourself anyway means that you can love that other person anyway.
I like that.
Yeah, it becomes very important to find people in your life who do love themselves and who do like themselves so that they can love and like you when you fail them.
Actually makes so much sense. That aligns with a lot of things I'm not gonna get into right here, right now, but that's a lot to chew on and digest and think about.
Yeah, I find because you and I have the same profile, so I have experienced this myself. So when I came up with the funhouse mirror analogy, it's mine. I should probably trademark that or something. Copyright? I don't know. It doesn't matter.
Do it
I'm
up,
not
yeah.
gonna do it.
Technically, that'd be a copyright, and I only know that because I recently chatted with an IP lawyer for something completely
Okay.
unrelated. So, yeah, it's I now know the difference between trademarks and copyrights.
Okay, so copyright. I now have it. Why not? In any case, it is one of those when you hear it, it's like it puts so many different life experiences into perspective. And I imagine it happens to you significantly less now because you found people who love themselves.
Gotta say, I've got really great people in my life.
Mm.
Continually grateful for that.
Me too. It makes a world of difference.
So that's the end of part one of my conversation with Scarlett Seebach. I hope you learned something. Chatting with her was so interesting and so engaging. I learned so much about human design. If you want to learn more about human design between now and next time, or just in addition to these two podcasts, because as she mentioned, human design goes deep, so there is a lot to it. Check out Scarlett's website, yourabundantdesign.com. And while you're there, book a human design reading with her. It's honestly so cool, so I highly, highly recommend it. And if you want to hear my human design reading, tune in next week because in part two, Scarlett reads my human design and I read her natal chart, so it's going to be interesting. As always, if you like what you heard, give me a follow over on Instagram where my handle is its underscore OMG underscore tarot. Also, if you're not following the show yet, follow, leave a review. But that's all for now. Talk soon. Bye bye.